Cumberland Plateau. There's Cowan over behind me here, and so it gets even more rural, but a bunch of people watch this from Huntland, and so we have a little concern for you right now. You got to be in your safe spot, and then take your mobile device, turn up the TV loudly, take your mobile device, and just listen to us in your safe spot. You know, if you're in the bathroom, you've got a plug, maybe you have your charging cord for your mobile device, and you can keep things charged as this moves on by. Now let's zoom in, if we would, Stefano, and just take a look. Once you do this cross section, we'll take a look at the streets.
1 second here. Sorry.
Yeah, it looks like almost that the heart of this may pass on the south side of Huntland. So we'll get those streets in a moment. But he's dissecting the storm here, and it shows where he's sliced. It goes up to about 6 miles, the heaviest rain with this cell. So there's a very strong updraft, and you can see the reflection of that down toward the ground as we go back to the 2D view, and that shows that hook, that inflow notch, essentially on that southwest, now southeast flank of the storm. So there's Huntland. I think this is 64. We've got Branchville, Neal, Mount Carmel, right over Elora. So there, that hook shows up very clearly. What do we see for rotation around there? There's Maxwell. Rotation detector shows around Elora and Neal. That's the area we're watching. What is that, the road right there? Is that Huntland Road?
Yes. Old Huntland Road.
Old Huntland Road.
As well as Old Highway 122 on top of that, right as you're going into Mount Carmel.
Okay. Do we see debris? What does debris detector look like for that cell, too? All right. So a little displaced to the east, but essentially in the same general area. This could be, we don't know for sure, because there are other blue blobs out there. So we got to be very careful not to call something debris that is not. But this could be. We don't know for sure. Could be some debris trying to develop west of Mount Carmel.
And that's a new radar scan, too, so we can see if things are lining up a little bit better now.
It's tough to tell. There could be some blockage with some of the mountains in here, so that may be why we're having a void in the data. We don't know, but we do know the exact area of this thing is on the border of Lincoln and Franklin counties. The southern tier, not far from Alabama. And look at that hook. That's almost textbook, how it really just wraps right in there. That's all inflow air coming in from the north. It's actually been wrapped around the south side back in from the north, feeding this updraft, feeding this very tall thunderstorm. And that is a nasty looking cell. So again, don't panic. Just get to your safe spot. They're moving very quickly. It's not going to hang around long, but that severe weather potential continues in southeastern parts of the mid-state for probably another hour, and then we'll be good to go. All right, Stefano.
And with that track on here, you can see, okay, the time is 6:37. Huntland, we are expecting this around 6:42. This tornado warning does go until around 7 o'clock. We'll see if that is allowed to extend. This is going to have very heavy rainfall. It's going to have damaging gusty winds just in and itself. We do have that radar-indicated rotation, that radar-indicated tornado threat. We have not gotten any word of one being on the ground at this point. We can only sort of speculate from what we're seeing with some of the radar returns that we're getting back. But this storm is certainly going to pack a very big punch as it comes through. We're talking blinding rain. I really wouldn't be surprised if there were some hailstones in this. Probably not very large hail, but something I wouldn't be surprised to see as we go through the next couple of returns here, just to kind of see what's going on. Here's sort of our storm threats that we're taking a look at. And what I want to show you with this is the fact that we're still seeing the heavier rainfall. That, I think, is one of the big things with this, and that gusty wind as well. That little red blob that you see just to the southwest of Huntland, that's where that sort of twisting and spinning of that system is. And that's really why we are watching this very closely to see what this warning is going to do. It's in a much more, populated area right now. So if you are in the path of this storm, we're talking areas near Old Highway 122. You can see that things are just starting to update now with our radar. So let me get it back out. Huntland right on our doorstep right now. Mount Carmel as well. Hickory Grove, Beans Creek, Francisco Road, Whites Gap Road, Gore Street, Main Street, Creek Road, Davidson, Cookout Highway. All these areas, if you can hear us saying your name, your town, your street, get into your safe space immediately. It does look like that rotation, Dan, is still kind of with us. The hook is not as well defined as it was, but we're still seeing this storm really just kind of continue to strengthen and continue to work its way to the east.
That's right. And so, as we said before, we were watching storms in Franklin County, and we weren't far from Estill Springs. And we weren't far from Timms Ford Reservoir, so we used that as a landmark before. This is well southwest of there still. So it's just getting into you can see the black line here and here. So down here it's Alabama, and over here is Lincoln County over toward Fayetteville. So the southwest corner of Franklin County, and then farther north we've got Winchester off the screen up in that general neck of the woods there. So Huntland, it's about to move into your area. In fact, it's moving in right now. It may be just south of Huntland by, I don't know, a couple dozen blocks, maybe 500 yards, a half a mile. I'm not sure what the distance is to Mount Carmel, but it's in that area. So you can't split hairs when you're dealing with something like this. In Beans Creek, you got to be in your safe spot. Hickory Grove, Huntland, Mount Carmel, and all the way down to the Tennessee-Alabama line. Yeah. These things can actually drift around. They don't move in a straight line. You ever watch the tornado? You ever watch after the fact that the path drawn and it does a little zigzag? Oftentimes. Sometimes can do a hard right or left.
And that's kind of why we see these rotation detectors, and they don't always completely stay in the same spot. That's why we have these cones, these polygons, if you will, for these warnings, because they can shift, they can move back and forth, and we can actually see that rotation sort of switch positions on us as the storm moves, and that's why we have to constantly keep all of these areas in these warnings, Dan, always up to date with all of this, and all the areas out ahead of it as well.
Right, absolutely. So if you're just joining us, again, tornado warning now. We're talking about Franklin County. It's been into Lincoln County, but Lincoln County, it looks like the cell has moved out of your neck of the woods. You can see Lincoln County, Elora, still some rain, and it's probably frightening, but the chance for a tornado is just east of the county line, and it's shifted right over Mount Carmel, Huntland. It's moving over those areas as we speak, right around Huntland. You know, I don't know if we can, if we've got someone on the desk to call down to the Franklin County folks in about 5 minutes, the sheriff's office, just to see if they're getting any calls from people in the public that a storm came through, that it was really bad, they got some damage. Hopefully not. Let me see Winchester. There's Winchester, because that's, you know, obviously a lot of people down in Franklin County know where that is. There's Deckard. So we're talking about well south of you. It's way down here. And this, the leading edge stuff over towards Sherwood, that's not tornadic. That's with a different cell. It's this and through here. And Stefano mentioned before there could be a little bit of hail, and that could be shown right there, potentially.
And it almost looks like it's trying to hook itself back again, by the way, but right near Huntland. So that's kind of what we're talking about, how that circulation and sort of that rotation can move, and it can drift as well. So the good news is for those of us in Lincoln County, the tornado warning has been canceled, but that's only because it's moving out of Lincoln County, and now the issue is Franklin County, Dan, because the warning situation is done because the storm has worked its way out. Now we're going into parts of Franklin County, like we were talking about, right over Huntland at this point, and we think we can go. I think, Dan, we should try a different radar site too, just to kind of see what it's doing, because this is actually picking up on a little bit more of that rotation from a distance, which, even though the radar site's farther away, I think we can still get a pretty good idea. Let me turn this off so we can see some of that shear. And I think this.
So this is out of Nashville.
This is out of Nashville. This is Nashville's radar.
Okay, so we had the rotation rings on there, the warning rings we sometimes call them, and so the reason we're seeing that, and it's very pronounced, is because we're looking a few miles up, probably 2 to 3 miles off the ground. So the storm is rotating throughout. And so the mid-levels of the storm indicating some rotation here, and that's what we're seeing. This is rotation a couple miles off the ground. But we've been leaning on the closest radar when you're tracking tornadoes. You know, simply that's what you want to do, because you want to see what's happening close to the ground. We've got some terrain. There's some blockage from the beam potentially down there. I know the radar's probably elevated on some sort of hill, and so that helps. But still, the rotation is obvious over Huntland right now. And so it's just going to be, and it's difficult to see whether or not this is debris from that rotation. We can't tell. Sometimes it sticks out like a sore thumb, and thankfully tonight that is not the case. Now we have this tornado warning until 7. What else do we have for severe thunderstorm warning, Stefano? Up toward Crossville, anything still in effect there?
We still have a lot going on really throughout the entire mid-state, or at least the eastern portions of the mid-state. You can see that those severe thunderstorm warnings are still up near Crossville, getting ready to move into Rockwood, Dan. So it's sort of just this line that we've been watching just mature over the last, I don't know, 1 to 2 hours, as it actually came up from the southern portions of Mississippi and Alabama. That's really where this line started.
Yeah, and so Rockwood, if you're familiar with Cumberland County, that's essentially essentially where you get the time zone change. So you go from central to eastern around Rockwood and Harriman. It's essentially on the eastern flank of Cumberland County. So the storms right now, that warning over Crossville, so it's not going to be very long before the storms, because they're moving so quickly, get out of Cumberland County and move on to East Tennessee. So good news there. And then Spencer, this is Van Buren County. No severe weather for you. It's done. It's just light to moderate rain. White County, you're in the clear. Warren County, you're in the clear. So it's really just these 3 or 4 counties: Coffee, Franklin, Grundy, and maybe the southeastern flank of southeasternmost little quarter of Lincoln County. That's the only severe weather potential we have for the rest of tonight. And so we have to get through 30 to 45 minutes. And then we are golden, and then we just wait on that cold front to come through Middle Tennessee late tonight. Probably our northwestern counties around midnight. Nashville, 3 to 4 a.m., something like that. And then the Cumberland Plateau around sunrise or just after tomorrow, and then tumbling temperatures. Time now 6:45 on News 4, and we still have this tornado warning. We haven't seen any confirmation. It's dark. There's a lot of terrain. Once you get past Huntland, you know, it looked like there was a really good burst of velocities there just for a moment, right down toward the Tennessee-Alabama line. There was a time lapse for about 30 minutes, and so we put that in motion again right there. So, and, you know, right now the good news is it looks like this rotation is less impressive. But from that, it looks like it passed south of Huntland. That's why it speaks to why we have these large polygons in a relative sense to get all these communities, because one little thing may show the rotation farther south, and then something else may show it over Huntland or farther north.
Yeah, and like you said, that's why we have those larger polygons. And you have to remember this, we have this tornado warning, but the entire storm, the entire length of it, did have that severe thunderstorm warning on it this whole time. Looks like that was allowed to expire, and they're sort of focusing in and honing in more on where that tornado warning is. But still, I mean, up and down from Tullahoma, Still Springs, Winchester, and all the way down through Huntland, Dan, you're getting the heavier rainfall. And I mean, that is torrential rain. We were talking rainfall rates of 6 to 7 inches per hour. Now, because these storms are moving at 50 to 70 miles per hour, we're not getting that much rainfall, but it's just showing how blinding and how heavy that rain can actually be. And
it's all wind driven. So if you have siding or something like that, it's going to sound like the side of your house is getting pressure washed. Now, what we haven't done with a storm, and we probably should do, is let's do a 3D cross section. Sometimes in the most intense cells, you can actually see a funnel. You can actually see what looks like a trunk. And so Stefano's going to zoom in. He's going to slice this whole thing in 3 dimensions, and we'll see what sort of updraft we're able to see. Just one of the things you can do with forewarned real-time radar. And so we tilt it back. We see all the elevated, heavy rain in through here. It's a little tough. It looks like it's sort of massed in there. I can't see any lowerings that look overly suspicious. Maybe in through there, maybe in through there. This could be the updraft core right in through here. Looks like that might be it. And then on the back side, we've got some raised clouds. There's some drier airs coming in on the backside there. But out ahead of it, you've got all that lift, and you've got low cloud bases. You've got a lot of rain. And again, maybe some hail. Could be some Peter Dime size hail with this storm around Huntland. Maybe starting to move east of Huntland right now, the worst of it. But that's the storm in 3 dimensions.
You can see that there might be some hail in there. I try to get rid of some of the outside so we could get a better view inside.
Sure.
But you're right, it's a little tough to tell.
Yeah, a lot of it's still suspended in the air, so what's up there has to come down eventually, and these could be little turrets that show you know, the hail actually coming down to the ground, or some of the rain, or a combination of both.
Yeah.
Do we have a report? Looks like Madison County, Alabama, debris on Highway 231 near Hazel Green. Hazel Green is essentially on the Tennessee-Alabama line. Trees down at Walnut Grove, east of 231. Some near Charity Lane. Couple power poles down on Charity Lane, too. More reports coming in. So Hazel Green. We have people watching us from Hazel Green, Alabama, just over the line, not far from where the storm came from, where it emerged from. Now we're getting closer to Winchester. Where's Winchester? There it is. And so the worst of this is going to stay south of you and go to Cowan, or pass south of Cowan, maybe get towards Sewanee, maybe split Sewanee and Sherwood. Just go this way. But we've got some time to watch this.
I think that where the worst part of the storm has moved speaks, a lot to where these polygons are. I mean, remember that tornado warning started when that storm was down here in the far southwest portions of Franklin County. Now it looks like the center of that rotation has moved up to the north and east, actually, and that's just happened over the last, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes or so.
Yeah, absolutely. And these things can morph. The pockets of best inflow can move. And so right now, I wonder if this is it, trying to just sort of reestablish itself. Yeah, right in through there. The outbounds, inbounds. But the good news is it looks less intense than before. Stefano?
It does. It looks significantly less intense than before, and that's one of the things that we do like to see. Now, these storms can pulsate. We've been talking about how they can continue to pulsate. They weaken, their rotation broadens, but then it can sort of spin back around itself, and it can tighten up that rotation. So that's why these warnings, don't expire right away once these storms show a little sign of weakening. There will need to be multiple different radar scans so that we can see exactly what's going on. But let's take 4-1 real-time radar out for just a little bit of a bigger view, because I want to talk about the rest of our area right now just for a little bit here. If you can bear with me, let me just adjust some of the radar situation and we can go from there. All right, so let's go ahead and throw things into motion here, and you can really see that everything is starting to come down very light in areas that are going to be west of 65. As far as east of 65 is concerned, that's where the heaviest of that rain is going to be, as well as the potential for that damaging wind gust on top of that. So back to the street view. Let's go back to 4-1 real-time radar for this tornado warning, which is still in effect right now for parts of Franklin County near Huntland. That's where that sort of center of rotation is. But it looks like the good news is, Dan, we really are beginning to see, I'm not really seeing all that much of anything left in this rotation detector for the one that's near the radar site right now. I want to try a different one because we can still get a better idea of rotation even farther out at this point. And you can see, this is the radar from Nashville, that it looks like that rotation has really worked its way a little farther to the north. So this started on the southwest part of this warning. Now it's moving up more to the north side. That's where it looks like that center of circulation has moved with this storm. So that's what we're dealing with at this point as we're tracking all of this out. All of these storms, as they come through, are going to continue to pulsate. They're going to continue to strengthen. And we're also going to continue to see these storms just kind of work their way through very quickly. They're here and they're gone within 5 to 10 minutes.
Yeah, and this is what we're dealing with tonight. Notice, you can see, Stefano, on the radar there, pardon me, how high the terrain gets down toward South Pittsburgh and Kimball and Jasper. And so you know that, sure, there's still some houses out there, but it's a lot more rural. And so once we get this over toward Whitwell and beyond Whitwell, we'll be in good shape. But in the meantime, we still have to watch this carefully. Yeah, the trend is good.
Time is 6:52 right now, and we're still tracking this tornado warning moving through Franklin County. Like Dan was saying, it does look like things are starting to at least show some signs to put us in the right direction that this may be weakening. But I still want to talk about sort of that center of rotation just to the north of Huntland. We're actually getting a few more lightning strikes in this as well, right around that center of rotation, actually. So here we go. There's south of Winchester. There's Cohen again. How about Sherwood? And Dan was talking about this. Looked like it was going to split through there. Looking like it's maybe tracking a little more to the north right now. We had to use the Nashville radar site with that update there, Dan. That looks even better with that rotation, with that latest scan, just kind of showing how broad this is. So we don't have those reds and greens with our rotation detector right on top of each other. Now they're spreading out a little bit, meaning that the storm could maybe still be spinning, but the rotation isn't tight enough to maybe just try to drop a tornado. And you can see with our rotation detector, this is another view of it. All this is doing is it's trying to pinpoint that center of the rotation, where the tightest of it is. And it was back near Huntland, and now you can kind of see that it's a little bit tougher to sort of wind down where that is and sort of pinpoint where it is, which is certainly some good news that the rotation does seem to be weakening. I'm going to say right about here, south of Winchester, maybe we can get in a little bit tighter and get a little bit of a bigger view, or a little tighter view of everything around that area. So there's Liberty, Keith Springs. Looks like that has now moved off to the east, but we need to talk about some streets as well. Water Tank Road, looks like Cove Road as well. Road Gap Road, and I think that's Turnpike Road. All of those areas are sort of right on the edge of where that rotation is trying to line itself up. Very heavy rain right now. near Iron Gap Road, Three Forks. If it's not raining extremely hard right now, it's about to. Maybe before I even finish the end of this sentence here. A Rock Ledge a little bit farther to the east, but still all these areas are near South City where we don't have a lot of heavier rainfall right now, but that rain is certainly coming. We still have this tornado warning until 7 o'clock. The tornado warning is set to expire around 7 o'clock. The current time is 6:52, so we'll be watching this closely. I want to take it out a little bit bigger, Dan, and we can see what's going on through the rest of the Cumberland Plateau just to see what these storms are actually doing as far as their potential for damaging winds. And the good news is in areas like Cookville and all the way down through McMinnville, even Manchester right now, we're really getting a nice light break in the wind, but we go just to the edge of the area. Spring City, Crossville, there's Dayton, Dunlap. It's this line of strong to severe thunderstorms that'll still be producing damaging winds, heavier rainfall as well. I think heavier rain could even cause some minor flooding in some of these spots. It's mostly going to be some ponding on the roadways. That's why if you've had any plans this evening, you got to be careful on the roads with this severe thunderstorm warning, which is set to expire at around 7:15. But areas that are off to the west right now in Smithville, Sparta, McMinnville, Auburntown, Woodbury, Bradyville, even out near Murfreesboro, the rain has really lightened up. We still will see some heavier pockets of rain through the remainder of this evening. But as far as the severe threat is concerned, it's really falling apart. And I think once we get through this last batch of storms in the eastern part of the Cumberland Plateau that Dan's drawing right now, I think this is going to pretty much be it for us as far as our severe threat is concerned. When you get these storms to come through and you have these severe storms, they're going to suck all the energy out of the atmosphere as they strengthen. And then everything behind that doesn't really have anything to work with. We still get the rain, but the atmosphere does not have enough juice to get these storms kind of going again behind all of that. Heavier rainfall, that's been the story pretty much all day today, severe weather or not severe weather. I mean, you can see some areas 5, 4, 6 inches of rainfall, a little bit less so in some areas, but still 1 to 2 inches in the last 12 to 24 hours for some of us. It's not going to take all that much for maybe some areas that just can't keep up with the drainage. The heavier rainfall could cause some more flooding in some spots. It would be minor flooding, areas of poor drainage, maybe some small creeks and streams have a tough time keeping up. As we go back in here, the tornado warning time is 6:56. The tornado warning for the southern parts of Franklin County, and you can really see it's pretty tough to even try to find a center of circulation right now. As we throw things in motion, though, that circulation was well defined when it was moving into Lincoln County and right into Franklin County. And now you've really seen over the last 20 or 30 minutes that that rotation has completely fallen apart. We just double check really to see that it's not going to tighten itself back up. Our rotation detector, this is from the radar site that's in Huntsville, so the radar site right here in the northern parts of Alabama, looking for that rotation and not seeing all that much of anything at this point, Dan.
And that's a good point. So in just a moment, we're going to go back to regular programming. We do want to show you this. This has changed in the last couple of minutes, and it's a new tornado watch. So let's see who's impacted by this. I think this goes until 2 in the morning. And so I'm going to hit, pardon me, OK on this, and we'll see that the new tornado watch is, wow, it's already for the, it's also for the, that's at 7 o'clock. So it must be for East, that's what it is, East Tennessee until 2 o'clock in the morning. You can see I'm clicking on some of the East Tennessee counties. It's still 7 o'clock for our Middle Tennessee counties. So some good news there, except for Lincoln, Moore, and Franklin counties. They, for some reason, go until 2 o'clock in the morning. So a new tornado watch for you. The rest of you expire in just a couple of minutes. But we'll take one more look at this, and we're going to just make a decision on whether or not we go back to programming, and I think we will. There's the rain, and it looks very ill-defined, thank goodness, down in Franklin County. And then here we've got no rotation. Why don't we do that? So stay with News 4. We're not quite out of the woods, but we will be here shortly. Stefano and I will keep watching things and keeping you posted on the News 4 app, on News 4, and on social media as well. Now, back to programming.
It is within us to share it. Not just a desire, but an eagerness to share it. Because it is the best news anybody could ever hear. And we pray that in Jesus' name. Amen.
If you've been blessed by today's program, please visit us at intouch.org.
Yes, agree.
Wow.